Hey Exiles, Chronic Painless here with another update to the Blade Vortex build guide. It's been 2 weeks in the Archnemesis League, and I've definitely learned a lot about optimizing this build for the current patch, and so I wanted to share an update with some of the most important things that I've learned over these past couple of weeks. First, I want to talk about how to make either the Elementalist or the Occultist version of the build feel substantially tankier. With the buff to Blade Vortex's damage, it's now a lot more reasonable to trade off some damage for some survivability, and I think there's a very simple way to do that. The next thing I want to talk about is skipping over frenzy charges as an occultist. Before the new patch came out, it seemed really good to rely on the Badge of the Brotherhood and Ferul's combo in order to generate frenzy charges, but it is now my opinion that there are much better item options that you'll be missing out on if you go that route, and so we should go straight to the full power charge stacking version of the build with the use of the Timeless Jewel. The last thing I want to talk about is some of the money-making strategies that I've been using in order to make currency in this league that I feel will still be very strong going forward. So, let's talk about tankiness. By far, the number one piece of negative feedback that I've gotten about this build is that it doesn't feel particularly tanky. Now, I knew that when I was designing it, and it is still my opinion that the best way to survive is to deal more damage, thus freezing your enemies and killing them faster. But if you do want to be able to take some more hits, there are a couple things you can do to achieve that on fairly low investment. The first of these is buying gear with spell suppression. Spell suppression is an explicit mod available on armor pieces that have evasion on them, and you can actually get up to 100% chance to suppress spells if you get tier 1 spell suppression on your helm, chest, boots, and gloves. This is an extremely beneficial mechanic, and I have to say that even with the 75% chance to suppress spells that I've been running with on my current setup, I do feel a lot tankier than before. The next thing we can do is add armor to the build. Because Blade Vortex's damage was buffed in the recent patch, it's very reasonable to trade some of it off in favor of survivability, and we can do this by getting rid of Zealotry Aura in favor of Determination. Determination alone is a big boost to our armor, but it gets even better if we incorporate a Granite Flask and Defiance Banner. A Granite Flask is easy enough to add to the build, but if you're looking to add Defiance Banner, you're going to need to get a helmet with the Eater of Worlds mana reservation efficiency implicit. This is a substantial boost to our mana reservation efficiency and allows us to run Defiance Banner and Determination by simply removing Zealotry from the setup. If you do this, you'll have a lot of physical damage reduction, as well as the spell suppression, and you'll feel substantially tankier even against bosses. The next thing I want to talk about is skipping over frenzy charges as an occultist. Previous versions of the build, including the one that I posted in the pre-patch Path of Building, relied on Badge of the Brotherhood to expand our maximum frenzy charges, as well as Ferul's Fur and Aspect of the Cat in order to generate those frenzy charges. We use Ferul's Fur and Aspect of the Cat because generating frenzy charges on hit is extremely unsatisfying for Blade Vortex against single targets. The best way to generate frenzy charges without Ferul's Fur and Aspect of the Cat is to get a chance to gain a frenzy charge on hit, but with Blade Vortex's hit rate and the low percentage chance to generate a frenzy charge on hit, generating 9 frenzy charges while fighting a single target is completely unreasonable. However, using Ferul's Fur and Badge of the Brotherhood in the new patch also feels really bad because it denies us the opportunity to take advantage of the Ashes of the Stars amulet and a rare chest with spell suppression and the new Eater and Exarch implicits. This opportunity cost is extremely high, and so I highly recommend going directly to the portion of the build where we would be only stacking power charges and relying on the Militant Faith Timeless Jewel with Templar Dominus. This jewel will make your power charges almost as good as frenzy charges would have been. Frenzy charges provide 4% more damage as well as attack and cast speed. Now obviously, as Blade Vortex, we don't care about attack or cast speed for the sake of our damage. The only thing we care about is that more damage multiplier. Inner Conviction, the keystone notable that is granted by the High Templar Dominus Timeless Jewel, makes our power charges grant us 3% more damage. This means that they are 3/4 as effective as frenzy charges would have been, and we don't have to worry about generating frenzy charges. which is a major benefit to the build since that enables us to run a rare chest and the new Ashes of the Stars amulet. Combined, these factors are enough that I think it's definitely worth just skipping over frenzy charges entirely, and you will not miss them at all if you are using Inner Conviction. It's possible to even buy a very nice timeless jewel with High Templar Dominus on it. What you're looking for is something that gives aura effect on devotion, and if you place this in the top dead center section of your tree, you'll find that you get a lot of devotion, and that equipping this jewel will barely be any damage loss compared to a double crit multiplier jewel that would have been even more expensive. It's important to note that even with Inner Conviction, it is still possible to make use of frenzy charges via minimum frenzy charges. Inner Conviction only prevents you from gaining frenzy charges, but it does not stop you from having a number of minimum frenzy charges granted to you by your gear or the passive tree. Let's talk about rituals. I believe that rituals are extremely underrated. I feel they are one of the most lucrative pieces of content you can run in Path of Exile, and I base this off the fact that the Kirak craft on our map device is highly expensive, even compared to other crafts in past leagues. 13C per map is an extreme upfront cost, and this must mean that GGG thinks that this mechanic is very, very rewarding. And I have to say, in experimenting with it, I agree. Rituals can give you a lot of currency, but you have to do it right. First, let's look at the Atlas passive tree. It's very important that you get all of the ritual nodes on the tree except for the ones that give you a higher chance to spawn ritual altars. These nodes are not particularly useful because if we're farming rituals, we're going to be guaranteeing their presence in our maps via Sextants. The new Sextant capturing item allows us to purchase whatever Sextant we want from the marketplace very easily, and you can purchase a ritual altars are present Sextant for substantially less than the cost of the Kirak craft, saving yourself several chaos per map. So, without the need to get increased chance to access rituals, we can spec only into the parts of the tree that give us more tribute, better tribute rewards, and the ability to re-roll more often and more cheaply. Combined, this lets us see a lot of reward screens and lets us choose the best ones to purchase and defer items from. My strategy for maximizing the benefit of rituals is to defer as much as possible and re-roll as much as possible, because what we want to do is just have access to as many fresh sets of rewards as we can possibly see. Every set of rewards has the potential to contain an extremely valuable item, and so refreshing, re-rolling is definitely the best way to make money in Ritual League. I even go as far as to purchase Sextants that have a free reroll, because this is effectively plus 1400 tribute to your overall tribute count in each map, and that is a large benefit that I believe is more than worth sacrificing the opportunity cost of another Sextant mod. Now let's talk about Metamorph. The key to making money while farming Metamorph content is taking advantage of a combo of gilded scarabs as well as the Atlas passive tree. As with Ritual, we don't need to worry about getting the nodes on the passive tree that make it more likely for us to encounter Metamorph monsters, since we'll be guaranteeing their presence via the use of scarabs. We want to be using gilded scarabs because these provide two very important benefits. The first is that all monsters will have rewards, and the second is that we will get an extra itemized sample from Metamorphs that contain at least one unique organ. Combined with the ability to rebuild Metamorphs from the passive tree, we get access to 10 rewards per map, and if we do a map that has 2 unique bosses in it, we can actually get 6 itemized samples per map. The key here is that you must build your Metamorph once with 1 unique organ, and the second time with the second unique organ. Putting both unique organs in the same build will result in only getting drops from one of them, and this will not allow you to get the 6 organs that you could get if you built them separately. This means that On average, in each map, you'll be fighting 2 Metamorphs and have a full set of organs for Tane in his laboratory. So essentially, you're encountering 2 juicy Metamorphs and 1 extremely juicy Metamorph per map. That's a lot of value from just a 2C Gilded Scarab and some nodes on your passive tree. Now remember, you need to find a map that has multiple bosses in order for this to work. I recommend either Strand or Acid Caverns, but there are many options, and you just need to find the one that feels best for you. The last 2 pieces of the farming strategy, Strongboxes and Betrayal, I feel are very straightforward, and so I won't spend too much time talking about them. But suffice to say, heavy investment in the Strongbox nodes on the Atlas passive tree, along with Ambush Scarabs and the Ambush Kirak craft, provide a large amount of currency, scarabs, maps, div cards, and everything else. And I highly recommend using it, especially in the early part of the league, or if you're just starting to get going with some reasonably low investment farm. Betrayals are also very good and require very little juice, and as with rituals and metamorphs, we don't need to spec into the better chance to encounter betrayals, as you should be able to use Sextants to spawn June when you are out of June missions. Well, that wraps up the week 2 update for the Blade Vortex build guide. I hope you're all still blasting and having as much fun as I am, and I'll be back next week with some more tips and tricks.